So I was at the bar the other day, and like there was this girl there that I was talking to, and she mentioned that her ex was a narcissist, right? I wasn't going to like, I didn't really want to get into that, but very clearly she had some issues because then she just kept talking about him. I'm like, oh man, this shit's unresolved. Um, as she's going on about this, she mentions that she's really good at like spotting narcissists, right? And I was like, oh, are there any in here or some shit like that? And she was like, no, no, nobody in here. And I was like, oh, what if I told you I have NPD? And I'll just say that like the conversation didn't continue very long after that, but it was funny. Anyways, Nameless Narcissist here once again. Simple man diagnosed with NPD, kind of being a piece of shit. Like you just saw, man, I shouldn't have done that. I'm an asshole. Oh well. Anyways, thought it was funny, but yeah, not a clinician, etc., etc. Hope that I can clear up some stigma. Although I'm immediately realizing that I'm doing a really bad job at it, but. Still, please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the video or find some insight from this. Yeah, and then I'm going to get right into this. So I was looking at some of these clickbait-esque articles on narcissistic personality disorder and narcissism because I kind of think they're funny, and also I just kind of like reading about what people think of me. I came across this one, 8 weird things a narcissist does, manipulate people. And I thought it would be funny, not only just to kind of go over it and critique it, but also I can give like real insights into how my mind works and how I would relate to things like this, and actually tell you how like you can, you know, I don't know, like if these are manipulative things, I could probably tell you how to get out of it, but I don't. But if you're really being manipulated, you're probably not going to realize it in the moment. So I mean, like it's kind of worthless for me to be like, oh, these are things you can do to prevent yourself from getting manipulated. Well, it's like those only work if you know you're being manipulated at the time, and people usually don't. So, that's kind of an issue I have with a lot of those like self-aware narcissist channels. They're all like, ooh, it's like, okay, can you like if you're in a moment the best thing you can do is realize you're manipulated in post usually, and if you're confident of that, be able to leave that kind of toxic situation. So whatever, I just don't think I don't think that would be a very helpful thing, but I don't know. So yeah, blah blah. You go through life, find yourself having to do with people who are seen to possess extreme levels of arrogance, manipulation, possibly even destructive behavior to myself. And these people may be narcissists, maybe. Chances are you probably encounter narcissists at some point in your life. I mean, is that like that? That seems like a bold claim. I think like what it's estimated that 0.5% of the population has NPD. So I guess encountering one, sure, but like having a drawn out relationship with one. It's not your fault. Yeah, it's not your fault that you didn't even meet me. So it goes into what is a narcissist? And then they say there are different types of narcissists, and the only 2 that they list is vulnerable and malignant. And I'm like, that's a weird way to divide up NPD. Whatever though. Although I will appreciate that they said under vulnerable narcissist, this type of narcissist may not be harmful to anyone other than his or herself. And then, but right before it says, although annoying. And I'm like, okay, well, thanks. I was like, wow, the one good thing out of this article, and then you just immediately kind of pissed me off. Anyways, so 8 weird things that they do. They turn a conversation into a monologue. I'm not even actually want to touch on this one because I don't really understand how this is to manipulate somebody. Yeah, I can get kind of caught up in just talking, getting attention, and impressing people. That's not manipulation, though. Why would I do this particularly? Evident. When you tell them something positive that happened to you, rest assured they'll find a way to bring up something about their life that's even better. Sometimes. That has never been a pervasive issue for me because I'm like, I view conversations even as very transactional. It's like, okay, I got to talk about myself for a while. Out of politeness, you get to talk about yourself, and then we'll come back to me. I can kind of forget that reciprocity. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But it's like I have an understanding fundamentally that, oh, like other people should be able to talk to in conversations. Obsessed with dictators, number 2. This one's funny. Are we obsessed with dictators? Is that like a... Okay, so I did have a phase where I was more obsessed with dictators than the average child. That lasted a while, but I don't think that's an NPD thing. I really do not. If that is, I'll kind of be shocked. Anybody else with NPD obsessed with dictators? Because that'd be a very interesting thing. Number 3, it will always be your fault. Oh my god, I fucking hate this. So this one's super interesting to me because you always hear, narcissists can never take blame. And yes, a lot of the times I will deny responsibility because the shame's too much, right? That happens. I won't deny that. But like also on the flip side of it, I will overtake responsibility for things at times because that still gives me a semblance of control over that situation. It's like, let's say a relationship went bad, right? I will overtake responsibility just so I can say that I was the one in control of that situation, which obviously has led people to have more negative thoughts than me than sometimes warranted, but is what it is. It's a lot more nuanced than just, oh, narcissist never takes responsibility. Sometimes when it's too shameful, but sometimes not being at fault is too shameful because that implies that we lost control. Projecting their worst qualities. Yeah, I mean, we didn't. Fair enough. That one, we pathologically do that. The examples they use here are stupid, but like, I can basically only see my own qualities in people, or lack therefore of. That's how I kind of view people a lot of the times. Not a pleasant way to live, first of all. But, things that we are most insecure about, we try to project on the other people, and that's usually very, very egocentric and not conscious. But in post, I kind of recognize it. And in the moment, sometimes even. Practices double standards. They lack accountability. In other words, they're often hypocrites. Okay, well, I hold everybody else to the same high expectations I hold myself to. I hold myself to even higher standards. And I beat myself up way more over it than I'll beat anybody else over with it. Like, I don't know. Like, a lot of these things just don't really... Like, I don't know. Practices double standards. What would that fit into in the DSM criteria? Like, entitlement, I guess? Prevents you from relaxing. What does that even mean? Yes, in the middle of the night, I go into people's homes and I wake them from their slumber because I don't want anybody to feel too safe around me. Oh my God. They'll do things that prevent you from doing something as simple as sleep. If you have a long day or sick, they may start a fight while you're trying to sleep. No, why would you do that? It's frustrating. Can never give a compliment. I give flattery to excess. I don't know about you guys. Like, they may make her... Like, I wonder how much of this is, like, maybe people with NPD who aren't, like, super attractive and smart like me. Sorry, that was so grandiose. But, like, I give compliments to people. I love... Like, my default way to make people feel better is to give compliments to them because I know how it makes me feel. And I assume that everybody wants the same things that I do, so I'm always, like, flattery, affirmation, you broke with your ex, let's get angry at him because fuck that guy, you're better than him. I've never met a person with NPD who would just refuse to give a compliment. I don't know. The only time I can see that being the case is if they achieve something that I'm like jealous of, that like I personally want, and then I will be like very like dismissive of that achievement. Exaggerating little things. Yeah, well, we're dramatic. I'm not even going to go over that. Final thoughts on weird things narcissists do. Dealing with narcissists can be quite draining for a normal individual. The good news is if there's narcissists in your life, you are not alone. There's more narcissists. Well, not everyone can see it right away. My hope is they will after reading this. Once you identify them, do two choices. Distance or remove yourself from the situation. Protect yourself by acknowledging the situation and arming yourself with the tools you need to diffuse it. Or you could, not assume this person has MPD. I don't know. I feel like I want to end that kind of saying that, although I thought that article was kind of hilarious, I want to end this with saying that the way that we frame people with NPD, somebody who are suffering with mental disorders, as being these people who, and no wrong, and there's nothing wrong with distancing yourself from somebody who is toxic and bad, right? I would never fault somebody for doing that. I mean, I might fault them for doing it to me because, that's a whole other fucking thing. Don't want to get into that. But if you suspect somebody in your life has these tendencies, address the tendencies as they are, not as a mental condition. If they are doing things like fucking like talking over you and like being belittling and stuff, address that. And if that stuff refused to get fixed, then don't assume they have NPD. Assume they're just kind of being a shitty person, and then do as you seem appropriate. If they are suffering from a narcissistic personality disorder, I don't know, like, I really don't know what to do in that situation, being honest. The only times I've ever talked to people who have MPD, they've always been very receptive to the fact that like they were very receptive to the fact that I had it, at least initially. I'm probably one of the more resilient people towards my diagnosis, and like I was, I would oscillate between using it as like proof of superiority and like and not denial, but pushing into the back of my head and kind of ignoring it when I first got it. Um, Again, a lot of these things though can be egocentric, I know, but the way that like these articles paint them in particular, I have a huge issue with. I just think that again, this stuff like that does way more damage than good for both people with NPD and people who do suffer due to people with NPD. Because I never want to say that narcissists don't cause people to suffer. I'm not saying all of them do, but same goes for people with borderline personality disorder. Like yeah, like I think that it's a very stigmatized and painful condition. That, but like I grew up with somebody with BPD, and it's a lot if it's not treated. But I think that there needs to be a recontextualization of how these things are presented in, especially like articles like that. It's kind of upsetting. Imagine if like I said this before, but imagine if an article about like OCD, the OCD person will demand that he checks his doorknobs 3 times a day or something. My dad used to do that. God, that was weird. But yeah, like, and like framing that as abusive behavior, because some of those things that were mentioned aren't like abusive or even toxic. Some of them were obviously, but like some of them were just kind of like annoying behaviors, and it's like, yeah, that's annoying. It's a mental health condition that may cause the. I mean, I'm not saying those examples. I'm not really talking about in this case, but like, yeah, it's annoying, but it's still a mental health condition, and that's just one of their symptoms, right? Get the symptom treated. Is what it is. I don't know. Just a little bit of amusing there. I just was very entertained by that. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day. And take your fucking meds. Don't think I'm forgetting. Now.